only play in Arizona if it's for a benefit or if it's to create awareness for another organization that we like, or if it's to straight raise money. And that's the only way at this point that we feel comfortable going, because there's so many issues happening that are important. And part of it is we support all of Method. We have chosen not to just go and play for, just regular shows. There's too much going on. There's too much sensitivity. And we're aware of it, and we need to respect that. And so that's why we're coming in this way. All of history, whatever perspective you're on, it's debatable. There's perspectives that are left out in American history. There are perspectives that are in American history that are not in other histories. And I think you can say that about, and as far as I'm concerned, the history of the region that I think they focus on, which Arizona is a part of, it is a part of what I think can be referred to as American history. Because in my personal life, I was born here. My parents were born here. Most of my grandparents were born here. I had one grandfather who was from Zacatecas, and their experience was very different than what mainstream American history was. So I feel like it's actually a fuller. It complements and helps create a fuller history. I don't think teaching history is just about saying what's great about everything. I think it's also saying about what is conflicting at times and why laws why they go to certain ways, the good and the bad of it, how it affected certain people in a great way, how it affected certain people in a not so great way, and what are the causes about that. So I think that to make an education a kind of more well-rounded generations. Even if you're Mexican American and your family has been here for generations and generations, you do have a different experience than new immigrants. So I just think that life is way more complex than one specific type of history, and I think it's important to learn how to talk about all those different histories. I think it's important for them to exist because they're real, because they actually really do exist. I think part of what it means to be a great society is to have that opportunity to kind of those multiple perspectives and find ways to find commonalities. Because I think with all of these classes, whether it be Mexican American studies, African American studies, whether it be European history, which is or whether it be mainstream American history, it is a part of all of our history as a nation, and I think it's important for as many of us to know all of those different perspectives, so that we can be sensitive and aware to all of the way different groups and different people experienced this country. I think it actually makes it easier for people to come to a decision to start to work together. I think we have to know as much about one another, and not all of it's good, and not all of it's bad, and that's very human. I don't know any one person who's perfect. So I think history reflects that, and the more we can be open about and challenge one another to know and to speak about what's good and what's not so good, I think we can start to have conversations that are about how we can make our particular experience in the society better. I've been to a few classes. I haven't been to every class. And the classes that I was in, as an observer, was allowed to go. I never saw anybody I never felt any kind of hatred toward other people, who were not Mexican, I never saw any of that. But I wasn't at every class. So for me, it's something that's dear to me personally, and I feel like it's actually helpful. And it's actually something that can allow people of many different ethnicities, just not Mexican Americans, see what's positive about and sometimes negative about our own culture. But I don't think it's so. From especially now that like the books are being banned. Like I've read, it's just there's a lot of running perspectives that happen all at the same time. Often depending on what what your personal life was like. If you grew up with money, you tend to have a very different experience than if you grew up poor. If you grew up as an immigrant, you tend to have a different experience because of how if your family has been here for generations. Like a certain hardcore group of fans who really enjoy that kind of personal connection. And I think there's different reasons why we got an app. I think one thing is like, as an artist today, it's kind of part of the fabric if you want to kind of stick with the times. We're older, we've been around for like 17 years, but and we're not like this young band, and even our style of music and the sound that we may come up with generally are not like, electro rock sounding. But we do feel it's important to kind of stick with the times as much as possible. So that's like a business and just kind of like a decision for relevance, in popular culture. We're not like a mainstream band, but our fans are hardcore, and they really do appreciate that kind of basic interaction. And so what we do with that is that it's just kind of more of a community. There's our individual selves, and I think you get a sense that we're all different. And sometimes we say serious things, and sometimes we say, things in fun, and we're joking on there. And what we found is that our fans generally really like to have that kind of experience and be able to just make, just like people do, like, say those things to one another when you're out in the world. And I was just recording right now with the bass player Will and the percussionist rapper Justin at his house, and they're just taking pictures on Instagram and making little notes. I think this day and age it is important. It's important to stay relevant business-wise, but also to like stay relevant just in a very basic, loving, kind of fun way with your fans, which ultimately I think is the most important thing. So I think we're just kind of growing and rolling with the times. It's part of what musicians do now, and it's fun. There was a time when I was like, "Oh man, this is weird," but I go into it, and I for the most part, I enjoy it. Well, for me, I think it's probably like my first love, and I'm still very much in love with music. So that's a real special thing for me. Like I feel really whole and free when I play music. So it's I just feel like I have to honor the fact that people give me that opportunity by coming to see me play and see a band play. So for me, it's kind of a really free moment. Even if it's songs I've been playing for years, just like it's very easy for me personally to feel rooted and feel safe with music, and creating that moment where, there's no doubt, where, generally I feel loved, I feel like I'm giving love, it's always really special for me. I think the biggest one is like staying together. And I think it's something that we're actually, at this point, we can actually pull it off for this long, And so in that sense, it's really, really nice and enjoyable to be able to reflect on that and feel that what it is, that type of love and that type of connection with one another. I mean, we're brothers, And we don't see each other, we see each other so much that we don't, try to spend all the time, free time together and stuff like that. But when we do get together and kind of reflect on it, it's wonderful. We're like, whoa, we really did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, to stay together for this long. At this point, it's one of the things I'm very proud of. Play and play in front of as many people as you can. And don't wait around for someone to discover you.
Nice.
Go out. I think it's, the artist's responsibility to be as good as they can be at any given moment so that you're not wasting people's time and that you're doing something that shows that you care. And whatever that is. It can be any kind of music. It can be performance art, it can be punk rock, it can be classical music. It doesn't matter. But it does take conviction. And I think people respond to that.